That works best. Letia, tell us a story.
Tell us about the before times.
Oh God. Let me tell you about fencing. Yeah, that's more important than the before times. All right, so I am Letia Thistlethwaite from Atlantia. Thistlethwaite because it's fun to say. And so that they know, even though y'all know. Hi, everybody. We are going to start out by talking a little bit about how you can make your opponents stronger than your opponents. And then we will move into how tempo works and then squish the two together into a lovely, lovely, tasty, squishy thing that works well. Hopefully. So I know a lot of you have heard my spiel about the 4 things that make your sword stronger. But if you've not heard my spiel or you think you want to guess, who thinks they can come up with a way, if my sword is against your sword, how it is stronger, potentially? I know we haven't gone through this before.
No, we have not.
I know we have excessively. I know we've talked about it. Can you think of anything, if our swords are both parallel, that's at parity, that you can do to make your sword more advantage than mine? Yeah, so what did you do?
Angulation.
Angulation, excellent. So specifically break down what made that angle more strong.
Well, we're not like this, which is not going to do anything.
Correct.
And then this, now my forte is on foible when I extend.
Okay, so that's actually a slightly different thing than just angulation. That is the strong of your blade, the forte of your blade here is stronger than the foible of mine. So positioning is one of the 2 things, one of the couple things you did by changing that angle. So positioning or where on the sword the strong versus the weak is one thing. You also did another thing. Can anybody else, maybe you guys over here so that I'm not talking behind me. What else could make your sword more powerful, more strong, more advantageous than mine, than just a straight line? I'll give people a hint. If I just let my sword go, what force is acting on it?
Gravity.
Gravity! Awesome! So, if I put my sword above your sword, and they are perfectly in line, what do I have on my advantage? I just drop my sword.
Gravity.
Gravity. What do you have as your disadvantage?
Gravity.
Gravity, because you have to fight it, and I get it on my side. So that's the second one. Or what? They're not in it anymore. But that is one more, is gravity. So whoever sword's on top gets to use gravity. Huzzah. Now you don't have to have all the things. I got 2 listed. You don't have to have all the things to be an advantage, but a combination of things that put you in greater advantage. Can anyone think of any more? And I'm going to move. Actually, if you guys can think of any, because I don't know.
Width of the blade?
Huh?
Width of the blade?
The width of the blade.
Yeah, so
tell me a little more about that.
So using, keeping the flat of the edge of the blade against your edge.
Yeah, so the true edge
Yes.
of the blade versus the false edge is one. So that's using some mechanics. And the true edge is when you put your knuckles, your finger knuckle side is the true edge of your blade versus the false edge versus the flat. And that we can actually demonstrate right here now. So why don't we both put our blades flat against each other? And we're going to push against each other, kind of at a moderate way. And while I do that, I'm not going to change my force. You just turn your blade. And immediately it becomes harder for you to push. And you didn't put any more pressure, right? Same thing we just demoed. If we do it same in reverse, I just turned it, and that edge meant there's more pressure in this one small spot. Mechanical advantage lets me push it right forward. All right, so that's 3. What were our first 2?
Angulation and gravity.
It wasn't
Position.
quite angulation.
It's position.
It's the position of the strong fort versus the weak foible. So how far up towards my hand you are compared to where your blade is. Angulation is another one. That one, so I read Fabris, and that one in Fabris has the weirdest, give it to me. Boom. That one has the weirdest wording, and once you figure out, you're like, oh, that's the simplest wording. So in Fabris, he states that the blade is strongest at the angle with which it points. That's weird, right? Like, you're like, what in the world?
So deep.
It's so simple. If I point this way, boop, my blade on this side of this line of my blade is stronger on this side. So the acute angle, if I was part of the triangle here, burp, this area, I am stronger. If I do this, I'm pointing this way. My blade is stronger on this side. It's weaker on this side. So wherever if you are a 90-degree angle and you point your sword, the way you point it, the inside of that angle is going to be the stronger side of your blade. Now you want to combine those things. So you want the strong part of your blade with the strong edge of your blade, with the strong forward of your blade on top of them so you get gravity. And that's ideal. We don't always get ideal. We get as close to ideal as we can. And we don't actually have to touch the other person's blade to have all their strengths combined. So I can be here and here, and I can simply move like that. What have I just done?
Move your strong closer to a weak.
I have moved my strong closer to the weak.
You have gravity on your side.
I have gravity on my side. I have pointed the angle of my blade in the direction which is stronger, which I totally just butchered the even more butchered sentence, but I'm pointing that way, which makes it stronger. What else? Got one more. True edge versus false edge. So I did all the things against her without even touching her blade. I don't have to fight her blade. I can just gain control right here. That puts her in a weak position, right? Do you feel threatened?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you not like this?
I don't like it.
Yeah, I like it. This is good. Yeah.
I'm
So
right.
if she does nothing, I get to attack her in my advantage because I've got all the advantages. She does nothing, I attack. Nice and slow. Because we're not wearing masks. So she has to move. I put her in a weak position. So she has two choices. Well, she has a couple choices. She could run away. Always valid. She could stay there and not notice that I've taken the advantage. A lot of people want a lot of blade contact. A lot of people, and I'm going to lightly demo this, but a lot of people are like, man, fighting for blade control. And unless you're touching blade, they don't think you have blade. So they're waiting for that. So I could do like this, and she's like, oh, she's not touching my blade. I got everything, right? In which case, she might do nothing. She might not see that she's at a disadvantage. In which case, I can just scoop. Boom. She's now very disadvantaged. And I'm already in before I touch the blade. She could also decide she doesn't like being there. Since we're far enough away, she can change position. So now, she's at an advantage. She doesn't even necessarily have to touch my blade to do it, but what has she done to change it?
She disengaged.
Okay, she disengaged, yes, but what did she do while disengaging? What has she done now that she has re-engaged? What has she done? What has she changed?
She's on your false edge.
Oh, okay, we got no talking, and we got all the talking. All right, one, you start.
She's on your false edge now.
Right? I don't like that. That's not cool. We don't like
This is
that.
great.
Huh?
This is great.
Fine. You're great.
This is fine.
Yeah, okay. What else? What else did she do?
She's attacking the weak side of your angle.
She's attacking the
With
weak
the
side.
strong of hers.
Yes. So my sword is strongest in the direction it points. It's pointing over here. Y'all are not a threat to me right now, and yet this is where my sword is pointed. I'm really protected against you guys. That does me no good. So she is on her stronger side. She's got a slight angle there, and it puts me in a weak spot. That makes me sad. What else has she done?
She's positioned to take gravity as her advantage.
Yeah. If we both dropped our swords right now, or weakened our swords, boom. Gravity. Now I'm fighting gravity and her blade. And she technically was a little higher on the fort to my foil. So she actually, in that one little motion, was able to switch who was stronger, who had more advantage than I, who previously had it. So, how's that relate to tempo? Well, it involves cookies. I don't bring cookies. I should have brought cookies, but I didn't bring cookies. So I'm going to talk about cookies for a second. We're going to switch to tempo, and then we'll come back to switch them together. Like a fancy Oreo, where you put them on both sides and have something else in the middle. So we are going to pretend these are cookies. And keep it on this side. These are little tiny cookies, like those little mini Oreos or like the Chips Ahoy like cereal. And this is a giant cookie cake. It's a mini cookie cake, it's really small. If I were to try to get from one side of this square to the other, and I had a choice to move faster, I would move faster, that would be my choice. If I had a choice to eat one giant cookie or 6 little cookies, and the goal is to do it fastest, not which is the yummiest option, which could be done fastest? The one giant cookie?
6 tiny cookies.
6 tiny cookies. Even though one would be tastier, and probably the preferable choice of a lot. But if I took 6 tiny cookies to get from point one to the other, I don't have to do as big of a motion. I can do 6 tiny motions in the time it takes to eat one giant cookie. Does that make sense? Yeah? Yeah? Cool. So fencing can be kind of like that. Tempo is the amount of time. One definition of tempo, because there are many definitions out there, because it's kind of one of those like close to, people have their own personal definitions sort of things. But one way to think about tempo is the time it takes for you to complete your action versus the time your opponent takes to complete their action. And by complete an action, if I start my arm swooping this way, it is very hard to stop in the middle. And even stopping is slowing it down to complete an action. So this is one action. This and making it stop, I actually have to change the force of the direction, correct? So stopping it midway, that stops the action, but it still completes it. Does that make sense? If I just move like this, that's a little action. It's easier and faster to complete, right? So, put my cookies away. They're not real cookies. It's so sad. With that being said, if we go back to our blade positioning thoughts, if we use some of the mechanics we had in mind, and we use the idea of large cookie motions versus small cookie motions, I can make a large motion, and she predicts it. She can know where her blade can be to be stronger than mine. So say I want to do this really big motion, which is sweeping up like this. Tit. This motion. So I'm going to sweep up the tit like here. She can predict, because this is a giant cookie of a motion, one big cookie cake, that I have to come here to hit. She can calculate that in order for me to hit there, she can put the stronger of her blade, which is the true edge of her blade, and I'm losing my words, sorry guys. So she can put the true edge of her blade at her fort where she's predicting my foible to come before it gets to her. So if I come up like this, she knows how to make her blade strong, and because she's only moving from here to here, it's like eating a tiny cookie, right? And the bigger the cookie motion you're making, do what?
So I really want cookies now.
I'm sorry, I should have brought some. The bigger the motion you're making, the quicker the smaller motion they can react within to stop it. The more time they have to predict it. Does that make sense? I said a bunch of words that kind of like blocked together and didn't make a full sentence. Did this final sentence make sense? Clear?
Oh, yeah.
Clear? Awesome.
Eat small cookies faster.
Eat small cookies faster.
Big
Big
motions.
cookies, you can see them a mile away. It takes longer. So how does that result in how you can gain tempo from your opponent? So let's go back to the scenario. Are you okay with me just using you as the person? Okay. So we're going to go back to the scenario before where I gained or stringered. There's lots of different words for being the stronger, like more, in charge person right now. So I've done this. I have put her in a position where she needs to take a tempo. And depending on how she takes that tempo is going to be my actions next. So she could do a couple of things. she could ignore it, right? And I've already set this up, so since she's ignored it, her tempo is ignoring it, I'm taking another cookie. She hasn't taken any cookies. I'm going to succeed at getting to the other side of the cookie, right? She could, because now I'm forcing her. By just moving that far, I have forced her to take a tempo, because if she doesn't, she dies, right? Yeah? So what else could she do? Somebody else that's not her, because she could just show us.
She could disengage,
She could disengage,
but that's a tempo.
but that is a tempo.
She could do a smaller.
So, well, that was a tempo. If I'm far enough back, she might disengage before I could get into range of hitting her. So if I do like this and she disengages, if she also moves forward, we could suddenly be, she could have an advantage over me if she disengages in a way that she predicts me to be able to do. If I don't expect that disengage, she could win because she takes that tempo. If I expect that disengage, and I expect her to take a small cookie, I could also take a small cookie at the same time she takes a small cookie. And then I still have an advantage because we both only took small cookies. Now, if she disengages and I'm here, and she does that same small disengage, but I try to do something big, like a big whoopee thing, suddenly I'm getting hit in the face because that's a really big motion, and she has time to take another tiny cookie of tempo using the blade mechanics that we started. Makes sense? Yeah. All right. So I just threw a lot of information, so I'm going to backtrack. What were our four? And if you fought with me a lot, I'm going to have you not answer. What were our four strengths of the blade?
Position.
Position. Tell me more about position, because position can describe a lot of things.
Position is like board on your foible.
How far deep the sword is in position.
Yeah.
All right.
Closer to the hilt
Fort
for
versus
me.
foible.
So closer to the hilt is better for me.
Cool.
Closer to your tempo.
Position this way. Who else?
Pointing in the stronger direction.
Yes. And what that gives me? What does that give me?
It makes the sword is stronger in the direction it points.
Okay. And which side would that be?
That would be this side.
This side. Awesome. All right. What else?
You want to have your true edge against their false edge.
True edge. Yep. Against false edge. We got one more.
Gravity.
Gravity! All right, yay. So I want us to pair up. Actually, before that, I'm going to do one more ice cream analogy because it's how you can, another way to show how you can sneak a tempo in.
I'm down
And I
for
like
ice
talking
cream.
about food. Huh?
I'm down for ice cream.
You're down with ice? I didn't bring any.
We can go get some afterwards.
Sounds
Yes,
good.
please. Here,
you should come be the example of the ice cream because you're down with ice cream. You don't need your sword.
I don't need my
It's
sword.
make-believe. It's make-believe. Come sit here. It's make-believe. All right. So you can also pretend you're giving them a tempo in order to take a different tempo. And that's a feint, right? But that's also using blade mechanics to create that feint. So we have a bowl of ice cream. And it's right here. And we're friends, I think. We have a bowl of ice cream, right? All right, so we're friends, and I also have a spoon. It's an imaginary spoon. And we're friends, so I'm gonna be super nice. Oh, we have a spoon. There we go, we have a spoon. All right, and we have an imaginary spoon and an imaginary bowl of ice cream. And I'm a super nice person, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand Colette the spoon so that she can eat the ice cream. But really, I wanna take the bowl of ice cream while I've distracted her with the feint because I have given her the tempo. And I have taken the whole bowl that I'm going to eat like a puppy dog. Because I don't need a spoon.
I don't
Apparently. Right. So, if Colette knows my wily ways and has already seen that I like to make a feint so that I can take the tempo of the ice cream away from her, and I go to hand her a spoon, she may decide not to take it because she doesn't trust me anymore. In that case, I can just go ahead and start eating the ice cream. So every feint that you do, not every feint, but often a feint, will give somebody a tempo to create an expected action. I am giving you an opening or a tempo or expecting you to do something with my blade mechanics by being stronger and forcing them to move, or whatever I'm choosing to do. I throw a shot to get a parry. Whatever I'm choosing to do, I'm expecting an action like her reaching for the spoon. And if she takes the action, I then have time to do the action I planned otherwise. If she doesn't take the action, I can complete that action, which is hopefully, stabbing her or eating the ice cream myself. So, but you have to be careful because if you do this too much, they can also just take the ice cream bowl because they are up to your wily ways. So it goes back and forth. You have to keep coming up with new tricks. Makes sense? Is everybody hungry now? I'm sorry.
I want ice cream.
All right, so side of a blade and come up with a way for their opponent to come out of it, all without touching your opponent's blade, so that you can see truly how those lines are starting to work. All right, and then we're going to move on to bigger shapes. All right, so pair up, side A. Just give your opponent a sword. Just point it at your opponent.
Oh.
All right. Don't give them a sword. Side B over here. Move your sword so that you feel like you are in charge of the situation and that you are stronger than your opponent. All right. I love it. How do you feel? Not amazing. I would suggest lowering this just a little bit because while you can be very close here, this is a very tiny motion. So you want to be just
more concerned.
You feel more concerned than you did before? Yes. So yeah, trying to get just a little more bite there.
Anyone else have a
Sorry. Well, I know what you're expecting
Move it
to.
right along. So how do you feel?
I'm gonna die.
You're gonna die?
I'm gonna die.
That's where you should feel right now.
Yep. I'm gonna die.
I am so outrageously dead right now.
Yes.
Outrageously dead.
All right.
Now we're true on true.
So everyone that feels like you're gonna die, change the angle and think of if you can change all four of those aspects with one single motion.
So other than a disengage, what's the...
Nice. All right, so you're at an advantage. All right, I'm gonna slow y'all down. Slow it on down. Slow it on down. All right, you are at a disadvantage. You are at advantage. Create an advantage. All right, what are you gonna do to get out of it? All right.
That's...
Yeah, so try it again. Find it so you can get the blade making. So that still looked like two motions. Did you see how it's two motions? So think about maybe that's the different.
Take it back.
Think about a different way you could achieve the same thing. What could you do to change it?
He was like,
Because that's not a bad thought, but think about another thought.
Do the first thing.
Which is there.
So there is very close. I'm just going to adjust one thing. If you tilt this here, suddenly that strong edge is right against the pitch. When you're here, it creates a flat angle that he can then move it and slide it up. But if you have it here and flat, and also flat, it's not too depth gripping. Nice and soft because a soft, tiny motion. Depth gripping makes big motions. So soft, tiny motion. So right here, you have done what you were trying to do before of getting this part before the strong edge on the weak edge. You've turned the angle so everything's in line now. And you're even on top here, so your angle created that. Do you see how that was a tiny motion?
There, pretty much.
Huh?
There wasn't even that there.
Automatically.
What was from there? Yep. So if even you can even make it a little smaller. So from here, just
Okay, so you can rotate
you
that.
can just rotate it. Yeah. Yep. Not even, you don't even have to do these giant L's. Go
And then you're
That's
on.
it. And then you're on. That's like an inch.
Yeah, that's nothing.
That's nothing. And that's the tiniest cookie. Just make the tiniest cookie. Boom, tiny cookie.
At that point, the mechanics kind of take care of it.
Huh?
At that point, the
I mean,
mechanics.
this is all about mechanics taking care of you, and the tiny tempo makes you be able to let those mechanics happen faster
I want you to want that.
before they can make a bigger tempo.
Okay.
All right, help me with this. This makes sounds, but. So she did.
She gave the blade in this way.
Okay. So that looks like. Where did you start at before? Let's go to where you are.
And then I'll figure it out and be able to demo some.
All right.
And I read,
So you are in charge right now.
so then I.
So you're raised up. All right. And then what did you do to counter?
Here's the sword. Good
All
job.
right.
I almost went.
So I'm going to give you actually the same hint I just gave him. Okay. To not think of just turning your angle, but if you take
Don't throw
where
it
were you guys?
So she rolled over to do a false save. She took me with the angle and false edge. She's on top.
That's a master
She doesn't have She has everything but.
The other thing, when you did that,
Providing that kind of
make that motion again.
All right, so I was here.
Yeah.
We picked that up.
Yeah, there you go.
That's all you're on.
And all right, so you just moved like that far, right? That's a big cookie. You just made a big old cookie, right? That's a lot of cookie to eat. So, and it also was kind of like a weird shaped cookie. So get back in that position, which makes it more harder to eat. All right, so instead of doing that weird cookie, still to try, you want to try to get there, but try to find a smaller way to get there. Think about turning
Yeah,
Ah.
should just be.
that is about 2 inches. Okay. That's not really a big cookie. That's a tiny cookie. And she should feel pretty unhappy about this situation. As we move forward, this is going to push right out of the way and go. So some of it is that twist angle. It would actually change the angle of her and your sword together.
Don't use straws because turtles use straws for noses.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
And that puts your true edge on her sword.
And that's what
And by doing that, it changes as it's turning it. It actually changes the angle of your sword. Try it again.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and because we're dealing with certain lines,
Why
this
did
amount
straws
down
and scissors for
Yeah.
turtles doing something with straws? Oh, apparently they are.
And think about that as you're doing it. Think about making it smoother, because as you did that twist, you did it and then you twist it down. If you just made that twist into one solid motion, it's going to be a nice, like, clean motion. The other was not a bad thought. The other got you all the places you wanted to be. You just, there was a simpler way.
Yeah.
Things favor
For
simple
whatever
small
reason, I
ways.
had this idea that I
Tiny
need to
team.
be active.
Tiny team. Tiny team.
Tiny team, best team.
Exactly. Tiny motion, best motion. Our turn.
All right. Here's the sword.
Here's the sword.
Nice. I like that. I'm going to do.
You actually like that? Because I really like that.
Control from
And I don't like that.
where I'm standing is
Thank you.
be moving your
And what did he do to change from what you liked to what he likes?
Well, he stepped in a small cookie, and he also changed his
At the same time,
yes, he did.
Even smaller than
Science
the
and
sword is just the.
So he had gravity, he had position, he had the strength.
And before he stepped in, what did he do though?
I don't remember now.
So he pushed his sword in before he actually made that step.
What I'm hearing is.
For safety.
Just
Also, the hand's quicker than the foot.
and then you can push down.
And that's,
All right. You guys doing okay over there? We're good.
I
All right.
think you should check them out. They were doing a terrible job.
I mean, there's no hope for either of them.
So like take
No hope.
failure of a
It's
head.
actually gonna take your blade further along.
Lock up.
All right. So I'm gonna throw. Are you guys good? Okay. Cool. I'm gonna throw one more tempo concept at you guys. So I'm gonna circle back up again. Circle back up. Bring it in. Bring it in. Bring it in. Bring it on in. Bring it on in. All right. So you guys kind of played with how your mechanics of your blade could change to create an advantage and how some of those could be bigger or smaller. One thing is the smaller motions, the hand is smaller than the elbow, smaller than the shoulder as far as motion, smaller than the feet. So if you have the opportunity to just make a small hand motion like this, to create all those differences versus a large hand motion or a foot motion, this is going to be your fastest tempo. You don't need to gain as many tempo, as many cookies beforehand to make, as you would to make a step motion. There's a time and a place for step motion, but you have to pre-gain those cookies, or you pre-predict what they're going to do so that you have time. Does that make sense? All right, so we are going to experiment a little bit with that concept as well. I'm going to grab my sword. And this guy. And we had a perfect example of that going on in a couple places, actually. So I'm going to try to replicate it. I'm going to steal you for the replication. Actually, I'm going to steal you for the replication. I'm sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but that way we can replicate the exact thing that was happening. So, and I need somebody who's willing to measure for me. Yeah.
Data.
All right.
I like data. And a scientist.
Excellent.
Check out her
Science.
Facebook.
So, I'm going to try to remember the exact motions we were seeing before. So it was a gain. You regained. And one thought was to come around, up, and down like this. Because that would get you into the place. But let's look at that. Let's look at where my sword goes in order to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and have you start with the regain. So if I'm here and here, and I'm going up, down, around, and through. Let's try to measure that in the air, like follow that measurement, to see how far that is.
My guess is 3 feet.
We start.
We start here,
3.5.
and I'm ready to take guesses. Actually, start just a little bit further.
Maybe like the
There we
jelly
go.
bean thing.
All right, ready? We're taking guesses. So who's guessing? Who's guessing what?
Where are we measuring from, the hilt or the tip?
Good question.
That is a good question. We are going to measure from the hilt.
Is it a direct line from point A to point B?
Or is it a curve?
We're taking the curves because we are traveling through that space
That's
2.5 feet.
because that is how far my hand has to
2.5
move.
feet.
2.5 feet. Anybody else got a guess? Got a guess?
12. Gotta be 12, 13.
12 feet.
That's what it feels like.
1 3/4 feet.
1 3/4, okay.
Okay, 1 3/4.
I'm gonna go with 3 feet, like
3
Gigi said.
feet. All right. So you're here. All right, you gotta start here.
This is
We're
clearly
tracing
scientific.
it,
This is
tracing it.
rigorous.
Here, I'll hold it here.
Such data.
Such datas. It might take multiple people. All right, you gotta make the curve in the middle here. There's a curve that's missing now. All right, we might need more people.
You just need to get a vibe tracker. No, you're good.
All right. Oh, we have a middle curve here, girl. There we go, there we go. There we go.
Science!
How far is that?
49 inches.
49 inches.
4 feet and an inch.
4 feet. I moved 4 feet for that motion. It was awesome. All right. Now wait.
That's a
If
big
we were
cookie.
still there, let's do this measurement too. So if I'm here, I then also have to move this far to hit her.
21 inches.
21 inches. All right. So 4 feet, 20, almost 6 feet. Right?
That is
So
more
I had
than 1 Letia.
That is more than 1 Letia. That's almost a far thing.
0.92 far things. Why am
All
I?
right.
Maybe I'll just establish a new metric measurement.
More than a
How many
Letia.
birthdays is that? That's about 2.5 birthdays. Okay.
All right. So if I'm in the same position, we were about right here, and I wanted to not move quite that much, I can think of other ways to move. And I don't like being in this position. We're doing the fighty thing of the sword, whatever. I don't like it. So
In the
I.
previous example, I was actually up here because I would never be with my
Okay.
foible right here.
All right, so
I
you
would
were
be
here.
up here to take
Okay,
the weak.
that works. That works. So we are here. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit so it's not quite on my face, just in
Okay,
case I screw
legit.
up real bad. Okay.
Legit.
I don't think I
Yeah.
will, but that would be sad face, literally.
Literally.
So instead, I need the measurer here. Instead, if I did that, how far was that?
Not that I know which direction you're going.
Okay,
So-
sorry.
So you do it this way.
Sorry. So I'm going from here because she's got. Shall we? Do we need a break?
No, I got this.
Oh, you got it? Oh, you got it? All
Shake
right.
it out.
Because I'm going to twist like that, basically.
It's like a
What did
regular
you-
far thing, but smaller.
Yeah.
I enjoy how different each of these lessons are. All right, ready? All three
It's
of
gonna
them.
be a treasure trove.
All right, so we're here and here. Does this feel like a threatening, similar to what you were doing enough?
Yeah, it was very similar in terms of like, I'm not over here, I'm here, but I'm still out of the plane of your body, so
Okay.
you moved enough. to
Well,
defend.
so start where we were before. So we're here. She
This-
goes up
this
to
first-
here. That's where she goes. All right, you got the starting point. Boom. Got that?
5.5 inches.
She now should feel threatened. I don't feel threatened anymore. All right, and then we're gonna do this. Boom. How far was that? How long's my arm?
So total of about 30 inches.
All right.
To,
0.25
So we-
bar veins.
Huh?
0.25 bar veins.
0.25, yeah, yeah.
oh my God.
So
you
we
got real
went,
tall real fast.
That is a reduction of 70% bar vein.
it's now less than a Letia length. It's certainly less than a Parthian length. And so that was making a smaller motion, which because it's a small motion, gives me a quicker tempo. So thinking of different ways that you can adjust your game so that you've got small motion as opposed to trying to do the larger motions that may make you, Yeah, the swim is bad because it gives you, and it's a bad habit that a lot of us have at some point in our fencing careers. But if you can think of small, different ankle changes that you can do with your wrist, that will actually change how big your motion is, as opposed to doing them with your shoulder, which several of us were doing in those where it wasn't just one, it was a couple. And I used to do it all the time. I used to like this sometimes. It was real bad. It was real bad. So those are large tempos. Those are giant cookie steep. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. I have talked a lot, so unless you guys have questions, which I would like some questions, if you have questions. Questions? Yeah.
If you're doing an arm motion and a foot motion at the same time, does that still count for the amount of length of time, or would it be considered like a good shorter tempo?
Well, so in order to move your foot, because your foot is slower, you need to make sure that the arm motion gains enough safety that their motion to counter that gives you time to make that foot motion. So if, for example, it's a great question. For example, if we are going to, let me totally make sure I understand my example before I started, if I want to make a motion with my foot, I'm going to do this, which may create you a reaction to Kabatsu going around my blade. In that time, I have time to move my foot and be safe.
I'm threatened.
You were not threatened, but that motion was big enough, and I could predict it at the beginning that it gave me time to move my foot. Now, if we did that same motion, and you Kabatsu, and I do this, and then move with my foot, while you should feel threatened, you now have time, because I did the hand motion and then the foot motion, you now have time to come around during my foot motion. Because I didn't pre-buy cookies, basically. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So yes, you can do both. Make sure you've got enough time.
Missed the pre-order window. Now you're screwed.
Huh?
You missed the pre-order window. Now you're screwed.
Exactly. And you can also, it doesn't have to be that you predict, like you do a big motion. You can see that they've got a big motion coming. So if they've got their sword way out here, this has to be a big motion.
God, I've seen that before. One of our mods does that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Which one? Say it for the camera.
No. Hi, friend. So this is a big motion. It's easy to predict. You can make a foot motion in the time that I come up in here, and I am not happy. That was a big motion. Even if I didn't move my foot, because I didn't move my foot, sorry. So let's do that again without me moving my foot, just to prove it. You can make a foot motion in that time. So keeping in mind where your position, where your opponent's position is, can give you a prediction of how much tempo you have to then put your sword in a better position. Cool. Other questions?
This might be like slightly outside the scope of this class, but I will ask it, and then if it's, we can talk about it. So I have been reading Agrippa, and Agrippa has several actions where he advises you to move the foot and the hand at the same time, but they tend to be like narrow measure actions where you're moving like offline. So you're very close and you're moving offline. And he advises to throw those at the same time.
Does he, are you already have advantage when you do that? Like what context does he give you to do that? Because if we're just standing here and I'm like, but bam, you have then an easy thrust here, and that's no fun for me.
Right. So the context is that you have set up several feints to the arm where they expect you to make do a defense like this instead of this. And so what you do is so the play is so I feint and then you parry and then I parry back. Right. And then I feint and then you parry back. And so you're expecting me to do the feint. So then when I the action is then you catch, but the instructions say to move the hand at the exact same time as the foot.
Right. So I think that if we were to put it somewhat in the scope of the class, do you remember the ice cream and the spoon? So they are giving you ice cream spoons over and over again. They are prepping you to take an ice cream spoon, right? Take an ice cream spoon, take an ice cream. So you have that action pre-programmed from what they're doing. And they're taking advantage of the tempo of expectation almost that you're creating by this go, this go, this go, this go, haha, I got you, I'm doing something different. So it's the tempo of surprise, so it's almost a feint, which gives you more time to move with the foot, which is what he's letting you do there. So you're building up, you're pre-buying cookies by feinting them out. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, just kidding. So I think that's what they're doing in that play, but I'm not thoroughly read Agrippa, but that's
I was just wondering because like the general Italian fencing advice is hand and foot.
Yeah.
But in a few specific plays, the advice is to do hand and foot at the same time.
And that's not a thrust that's not a lunge at that point. Mm-hmm. So the hand and foot is often going with the lunges. That is more of a movement. So I could see it being an exception because you're not doing the same explosive. You're doing a sideways motion, not an explosive motion. Does that make sense? Yeah. That would be my theory, having not read it and not like. Now that we're recording it, I'm just gonna make some stuff up and say that that's what I think sounds good from my previous context of things. So. What? Okay, cool. All right.
Well,
Y'all good?
thank you very much, Provost Letia.
Yay, thank you. Super helpful.